All right, so welcome to section 1.1 in the notes, analyzing categorical data. So that's the first thing we're going to be looking at is categorical data and everything that encompasses that. Then we'll take a look at quantitative data in lessons further down the road. So categorical variables places individuals into one of several groups or categories. We define that in the 1.0 notes. Favorite toy activity, so hopefully you had a chance to look at that because I'm going to go through these notes assuming you've done the favorite toy activity either in class or you've at least looking at the activity and maybe used some of the made up data that I gave to go along with that if you weren't in class to at least complete the worksheet and learn that material. So what do you notice about each bar chart below? So I want you to take a moment, and I know on my screen, because I'm projecting this, it's not the easiest to read, but you should have a copy of the notes in front of you or a PDF version of the notes for you to be looking at or referencing. But I want you to look at each of these graphs and write about 2 to 10 items of what's good about the graphs, what's bad about the graphs, what's something that stands out to you. So make a list of the good, the bad, and anything in between about this graph, and then do the same thing for this graph over here. So they're two separate ones. Take a moment, pause, write down your notes about each graph, and then press play to see what I noticed. All right, so the first thing I notice on this graph is that my y-axis here starts at 94 million. So right away, it looks like this very first bar is really teeny tiny, especially in comparison to the last one. But I need to remind myself when I'm looking at this that this is starting at 94 million, which is a very large number. And it only goes to 108 million. So the jump from here to here, though it looks very drastic, is not as drastic as the graph makes it look because it has this scale really broken down because it starts at such a large number. And so that's a little bit deceiving there. I notice here that we have 2009, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, 2010, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So it looks like from one bar to the next, you might almost be thinking that years are passing or something of that nature, but this is actually looking at quarters. So my units on the x-axis are in quarters. So that's something to make note of if you're interpreting this graph. One thing that I think is good about the graph is that the bars, these actual boxes or bars, are all even. Now, I don't love that the bars kind of show some type of shadowing, almost making it look like they're not quite as big or as small as they might be, but they really are all the same size. So that's one thing that's good, that's not deceiving about this graph. That's not something I can say about this graph over here. So the graph on this side, the biggest thing that stands out to me is that they're using different sizes of computers. Whoops, various sizes of computers. And the reason why that's an issue or kind of deceiving is because surface area of an object is a lot harder to wrap our heads around versus just a bar like this. So really what they're comparing are these heights, not necessarily the area of those pictures themselves. And so it makes it look like this computer is so itty bitty bitty in comparison to these other ones, but really it's not as drastic as it's making it appear because it draws your eye to the area of those computers versus just the height of those computers. This one does start at 0, which I think is nice. Okay, and it has nice consistent units on the y-axis. So when you're analyzing graphical displays, you have to be careful that they're not deceiving, okay? Look at how things are labeled on the X and Y axis and look at, are the bars even? Are they using things that are proportional or not proportional in terms of computer sizes and things like that? So graphs often we want to take as just a visual and be like, look at this drastic change from one end to the next. But you really need to make sure that you're checking, is that really as big of a drastic change as it appears to be? So the next thing I want you to do is read page 18 of the textbook to learn about association. So if you've not accessed the online textbook yet, now's a good time to do that because I want you to learn about association here, something that's not explicitly covered in the notes, but you're going to want to know there. Or if you have a physical textbook, pull that out.